Hi, my name is Regan Casey, and I watched the movie 12 Men of Christmas, which is an example of PR and pop culture and also shows how PR is misrepresented. We are going to answer the question who, what, where, and why. We are looking at a savvy PR executive by the name of E.J. Baxter, who is tasked with funding the local search and rescue team in Kalispell, Montana, to help them buy their very own helicopter. Next, we're going to look at the department structure. E.J. Baxter is a part of a very unique PR department. She's the sole PR employee for the town of Kalispell, Montana, which, coming from New York City, is quite a shock to her. However, since she comes from such a successful background in PR, everyone in the town of Kalispell really does trust her. She's lucky to have complete freedom of her decisions and make a decision that's concrete. The only downfall to the situation is that she doesn't have anyone to occasionally help her or anyone around her to really bounce her ideas off of, which can be frustrating at times. Overall, this movie shows how public relations is misrepresented due to the hard work and sacrifice Baxter puts into the success of her project, with the little amount of appreciation and satisfaction she receives from the residents of Kalispell. It's not as easy as just posting a few Instagram posts or Facebook posts. Next, we're going to look at the tactics and the obstacles faced. So during the movie, we see Baxter use one main tactic to raise enough money to get the search and rescue team their own helicopter. The main tactic we see her use is the creation of a 12 Men of Christmas calendar to sell in the town and then take the profit and add it to the helicopter fund. This idea was sparked after she received an old calendar in the mail that was covered with Montana scenery. Although that may sound great, the average user of the calendar would not think twice about the scenery. The calendar would simply just blend into their everyday lives, their refrigerator, their wall, or wherever they hang it up. So Baxter thinks that the use of the men who are both in the search and rescue team and own businesses in the town will lure women in and result in the purchase of a calendar. While this tactic seemingly results in an obstacle she has to overcome. Baxter now has to use her skills to get the men to agree to pose for the photo shoot, which is something that's not so hard to do in New York City, but is pretty hard to do in Montana. She assures them that their businesses will thrive and their lives will improve tenfold. Her persuasion skills, which we know is really important, lead to all the men in agreement to pose for the calendar, which allows her to begin her sales. So she begins to sell in many local establishments and at any fundraising event she can with the help of all the locals. So she's really helping locals while she's trying to fund for the helicopter. Next, we're going to see why this is unethical. So although her tactic is really smart and sends shockwaves through Kalispell, which gets people talking and is always a goal, she does it unethically. So in an effort to get the men to agree to pose for the calendar, she makes the decision to lure them into going on dates with her. While the dates are nothing but friendly, we all know as a PR professional that's against the rules. If that were to be done in real life, you could lose all credibility as a professional. She also uses the mayor of Kalispell in the calendar. That's using a public authority in a provocative way, which is certainly unethical. Lastly, she twists the truth when she's trying to get men to commit. She lies to them by saying that all of their men have committed to posing even when they haven't. Once again, if this was a real-life situation, she would have lost all credibility. Lastly, we're going to conduct a SWOT analysis, which is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. So her strength was her background and credibility amongst the town residents, which helped her succeed. In addition, there was an urgent need for a helicopter, which made the purchasing of the calendars way more enticing. Baxter's weakness was the lack of help she had due to the unique PR department she was a part of. Her opportunity was the lack of competitors in Kalispell and the freedom to make decisions she wanted. And her threat was the potential that Med would not agree to make the calendar and the risk that people may not buy the calendar. Overall, E.J. Baxter used her savvy New York City PR experience to her advantage, using a strong tactic, which was the calendar, despite the unethical avenue she took to get there and her position in the unique PR department.